Hello and welcome back to the Comic Lounge. This is going to be a bit of a wild one because I'm recording this on Free Comic Book Day. And the crazy thing is, if you had seen my last Free Comic Book Day sort of video or whatever, I can't recall if I did one on Free Comic Book Day, or at least I might have did one for Free Comic Book Day last year. But either way, last year it was very, of course, interesting because just like this year, I'm in a very small town. It is Susanville, California. There really isn't a comic book shop here that, specializes in brand new releases. So therefore, there's not going to be any of the typical Free Comic Book Day 2026 releases. But this shop here in town, as I think if you have been paying attention or have been watching my stuff already, you should know the shop that I do have here in town really specializes in back issues. It is Highway to the Gaming Zone. And last year they did participate in Free Comic Book Day. However, it was a little bit more minimalistic. This year they decided to go a little bit all out. And this might be one of the craziest ones, and it's going to be crazy for a lot of you because of you wish you would get more of this type of action. Now, that not necessarily is to say that I picked up a lot of stuff that is probably valuable, but there's definitely a couple of ones that are really, really crazy. And not super crazy, but pretty crazy enough. And in some ways, bypassed a lot of certain stuff. Let's say, eBay, whatever, and whatever some shops would price these at. So I bypassed a lot of that. And to give even more further, they did this a little more differently because of while they do have their shop open today as a recording there, which is a Saturday, they do have their shop open. However, they decided to create a booth, and I think because today was also a flea market day, and they had it out at a particular section of this town, and it's right by I think at the Lassen County Brewery, which is not too far from 5 minutes away from here, from this house. And everyone in this center, which is all outdoors, had everything to it. So it was like typical flea market sort of stuff, typical, all of that jazz. But they made a booth, and they had 4 boxes and some other extra comic books, on the, displayed out, whatever, laid out on their table. And so, with that, I just started rummaging through, and before I even got to finding one that I wanted to pick out to get, to take with me, take whatever, I did ask the guy who was running the booth and is the owner of course, or at least one of the main founder, whatever, of Highway to the Gaming Zone, and I know him. At this point, he knows me. I'm a regular to the shop, and so I asked, is it usually one free comic, whatever, per visit or something like that, because they're not going to be open, Sunday. They're not going to be open. They're closed Sunday, but we're getting close to summertime, so or spring, more closer to spring, and so they might end up opening up again on Sunday. Anyway, I asked him, and he said, I'm a regular to the shop. I always buy a lot from the shop, and so he pretty much gave me the okay that, I'm allowed you to 15 bucks. And I just went, thing is, I don't want to go that too far because I stopped at 12. But this is how much I ended up picking up. Again, 12 free books that are mostly back issue stuff. Stuff I normally wouldn't really purchase, but he had it out for free. And so I able to come out with, I walked out of the flea market with 12 free comics. And there's a couple really cool ones. As I'm saying, there's a couple cool ones. So let's get to the first two. I've been eyeing these, and I've been very interested in a lot of Neil Adams. And so this was one of his first sort of independent comic book characters. This would be a Ms. Mystic. And so they had, so for free I was able to get number 1. Just a decent, okayish copy. I know they had one that was already bagged and boarded, or that was for sale, but I think that might have been bought then because I couldn't find the other one anyways. But I was under a little bit of time, but there it is. Just that little bit of corner. I can be able to get it through there. Not going to really see it. There you go. Yeah, it's a little bit of a corner sort of ding there. But for the most part, not too bad. There's Jack Kirby Silver Star because this was Pacific Comics. And with that, here we have is number 2. And this one was already bagged and boarded, and they were selling it for $2, but I was able to get it for free. So this was one of the free titles. This one's not super bad shape, too. This one's okayish. But there you have it. Ms. Mystics 1 and 2 for Neil Adams' Pacific Comics stuff. Because that was his creator. That's his character. Alright, and the other 3 I ended up throwing in there for was pretty much able to get for free. Some of these few Jonah Hexes. I've been one of the few DC Western characters I'm really into to begin with. And so I got number 76. That's not bagged, but it's bagged, but not boarded. That's going to change here. Number 81. Very cool. And on top of that, an earlier one from 1979. This would be like number 28. Great Luis Dominguez cover there. And this was originally being priced for $5, but for the shape and everything, that's, you know what, free's good. Can't go wrong with that. So, got that for free. All those. This was the one that finally caught my eye and where eventually everything just, spat out of control in a way. Everything just got out of control with what I'm freaking picking out. And I saw this one, and I've always been catching my eye on some of these Bronze Age Atlas comic stuff, which was, I think, Marvel still. I know Marvel used to be called Atlas during the Golden Age, but this, they sort of, I guess, for off-the-wall sort of characters, whatever, that for all of their other artists and creators, they had, I think, made it as a... This was maybe the beginnings of doing spin-off sort of publishers. So that I guess Atlas got relaunched. I don't know how that story happened anyways. Again, I'm not too that versed, but I had seen this. I only got another Atlas, Bronze Age Atlas book in there. Things like Morlock 2000 in my collection. But they had this one. This was like the last issue in this short-lived series, but for... Tony was originally Tony Blake Isabella, but these days it's or Tony Isabella, but it's Jenny Blake Isabella these days. But for her or he here or whatever. So this was one of her characters, and again the Grim Ghost, and this was more of the sort of horror western sort of character really. And they had it, and again, not priced to begin with, but hey, it was in a box that was meant for stuff to be given away for free. And so this was what spat everything off, and I'm like, all right, I'm grabbing this one. So Grim Ghost number 3, and now I'm gonna have to find the other 2 issues. Thankfully, as this is not that expensive of a run to begin with, I can still easily get the other 2 issues. I know at some point this even got relaunched, I think maybe by Jenny Blake Isabella, again previously Tony Isabella, but again, if I'm making everybody angry with some of that, I apologize. So I'm just going to continue on with that. So still very cool, great Russ Heath artwork, and also Ernie Colin as the interior artist. So there we go. Again, just some great sort of cool Bronze Age Western horror stuff. Love all of that. That stuff I use. That's my very cool sweet spot. I was able to get these finally for 3, which is I was now able to fully finish this miniseries because I got the first 2 issues. But we're talking about the Hawk and Dove miniseries with some of the earliest art, whatever, from Rob Liefeld. And so there's number 3, because I have 1 and 2, and as you can tell, they're all newsstand editions. But there you have it. There's number 4. Again, that right there is some typical Rob Liefeld. And finally, number 5. There's the last issue in the miniseries, and this was the way to introduce Dawn Granger, a.k.a. the new Dove, the one that ended up being put in the TV series for Titans. And so, this was her debut in the comics. So, I was trying to complete this entire miniseries. So, for free. Now, this one blew my mind that they had in the box for free. That they were selling this, they were giving this out for free. I am really surprised. Because this still kind of has a bit of a decent value these days. Not as high as it used to be, but it still does. I think because everyone kind of got a little too smart on the, the key factor of this issue. But we're talking about Rust number 1, which for me, being the Spawn fanatic, this was one of the Spawn previews. And for a while, this used to go for like 20 to maybe 30 or 50 bucks, depending. Especially during COVID time. But this really came down in price these days. You can still find some copies for 15 bucks. Maybe between 10 to 15, maybe a little lower, depending. Still, it usually goes around at least 15 to 10 bucks, so it's still very under 20 bucks. But this used to be a lot higher. And the fact that they were giving this away for free, I don't know if I didn't think whether or not if the guy even knew exactly that he was giving this away for free. But hey, I snagged it, I threw it in there. I am surprised. And so I couldn't believe it. And again, not priced. I had originally seen it in the boxes before on the shop, but I did not want to take it up there. I didn't want to walk out of a shop paying or splooging a whole bunch of money on this sort of, which is almost a minor key these days. But at one point, this might have been considered a big key. All because of the Spawn preview. That is, or the whatever for Spawn, just before Spawn number 1. So that right there was a pretty cool, takeaway. I'm like, all right, I'm snagging it. No one's going to grab it then, but I'll grab, because again, I don't know how many people here in this town are that smart to that comic. So that was a pretty cool walk away. This one, again, I also threw in there, and this seemed to be from a much later run for this one. I've never seen it, but Vampirella number 20, this would have been from the run from 2001 to 2003. This one being written by John Smith, who is best known for doing like Judge Dredd for 2000 AD, with, of course, inking from Jimmy Palmiotti, who had been doing quite a bit of inking for Vampirella in the 90s to begin with. But this is from like the early 2000s. And so I don't really see a lot of 2000s period Vampirella stuff too often. And so that was very cool. So I got that one for free. Finally, and again, this one was in there and it caught my eye because I've been trying. Now I'm on some of these Dark Horse superhero kick, and I used to read some of these Dark Horse superhero stuff, but I don't recall reading a whole bunch of Ghost. But I found number 7. I was in there. Originally, they were selling this for like $5, but I was able to get it for free. Just a great Adam Hughes Halloween cover, again drawn with kid wearing the Hellboy, Madman, and of course the mask. So really cool Adam Hughes. I've noticed already as I got back on, went on the eBay that this is starting to this jumps up and down. Some people try to sell us a little higher than just $5, but hey, got it for free. Can't beat that. It's in pretty good shape too. I mean, all these mid to late 90s Dark Horse stuff really is very, very high quality. The paper and everything and the card stock is always high quality, so everything's going to last, the test of time. There you have it. There's all the books I decided I ended up picking up on Free Comic Book Day. Something normally you don't always see people pick up on Free Comic Book Day or even get for free in general. But that I ended up getting it for free, and hey, it's some really, really cool titles to begin with, and stuff you normally don't always see. And so there are some really fun ones in there. If you have any sort of thoughts on some of these books I've shown, or these titles or characters, you can all, leave them down in the comment section below. So with that, you can always even or put in your comments of what you end up picking up on Free Comic Book Day, if you've even spent some money on Free Comic Book Day. So with that, this is Henry Thrasher saying I'm out, and I'll see you all later. And again, not only will it do me great, but it will do you great, because of when you hit that subscribe button, you're never going to miss out on content. So please do that. Take care, everyone, and happy huntings.